Okay, I'm going to talk about karma, and I'm going to try and figure it out. I was watching a video by Dr. David R. Hawkins, the spiritual teacher who uses muscle testing to confirm if what he's saying is correct. And in essence, he confirms that karma is real. And I watched his video on karma, and then I came to the conclusion that karma doesn't make any sense to me, especially if you're talking about karma from past lives. So if there was such thing as a past life that I experienced, and Dr. Hawkins said in human history it was nothing but slaughter of one human by another, so many wars going way back in history. And Dr. Hawkins said basically, if something that you consider bad happens to you in this lifetime, you can chalk it up to karma and just, take your lumps. And then he went over to his wife, Susan, and she held out her arm like this, and he pushed on it, and that's a form of muscle testing, and that's what he told us. And I looked at it and I said, this doesn't make any sense, because to my mind, karma should be something to help people learn better behaviors. Otherwise, what's the point of karma? Because if you can't remember 5 lifetimes ago when you were, 5 lifetimes ago, let's say you were somebody who killed somebody else, and it was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, 5 lifetimes ago, you killed somebody, and now it's time to balance the books, and so something bad happens to you now, and you don't have any memory still of what happened 5 lifetimes ago, but you have to go on what Dr. Hawkins tells you. It's simply the wheels of karma have caught up with you, and it's time for you to pay off your karma, and something bad happened to you in this lifetime, and you just have to accept that there is a God out there that's keeping track of everything that you've done in all your incarnations as a human, and it's time to pay the piper. That doesn't make any sense to me, because why would you have to pay in this lifetime when you didn't slaughter somebody for something that happened 5 lifetimes ago? One thought I had was, well, maybe if when you're dead and you're in the afterlife, that's where all this karma lessons balance one another out. So in other words, once you leave the physical human body and you're dead to the physical human world right here, and you go to the afterlife, into the light, or whatever they want to tell you, these various stories that we hear, the myths, then when you're there, something that appears as God to you says, okay, well, 5 lifetimes ago, and then calls up on a video screen, you killed this other person, you slaughtered this other person while you were in a body, and you didn't know nothing about the afterlife, just like before when you were, alive, like now. But now that you're out of the body, you're going to remember your past lives, and you're going to see how karma balances. But it only is going to happen for you when you're in the afterlife, because while you're living in the body, I don't know whether it's true if I had past lives or not. I have no memory of it. So it would only be good for you if you were in this so-called afterlife for you to see, okay, well, the scales were balanced. But how does that teach you anything? When you're in the body, it doesn't teach you anything, because we hear about karma, but we don't know if it's true or not. It would only be in this afterlife that we'd get to see it all. But by then it's too late, because it's not going to help us make a better decision in the body. So the whole idea of karma to be a teaching tool is stupid to me. And, if it's stupid to me, I'm going to go with it's totally wrong. How can that be wrong if Dr. Hawkins, who did all of his work and wrote so many books, was using muscle testing, and that's what he got? I can only come to the conclusion that either Dr. Hawkins is 100% wrong on everything, or he's only partly right about some things, or maybe he's read a lot of books and things, and somehow the muscle testing he does with his wife, Susan, is tapping into the stuff that he's read, and it's confirming, what he's read somehow. And muscle testing is a fraudulent thing. What's the truth? I don't know. I mean, the word karma was around among humans for thousands of years, way back to ancient India, long before I was put into this body. And, as I said, I don't remember any past lives. So, and what about this idea of some God that's, you'll need to experience when you're dead in an afterlife? Is that the only time what you... So, what's the truth? Does muscle testing give us truth? Well, this goes back to a book written by Dr. John Diamond, who is a chiropractor, and he wrote a book called Your Body Doesn't Lie. And chiropractors are known to use the principles of muscle testing to see if you have things like an allergy. Dr. Hawkins, he's actually written up on quackwatch.com, and he's called a quack. But you can't just go by Quackwatch. Who am I going to believe, Quackwatch or the Nobel Prize people? Now, Dr. Hawkins didn't win a Nobel Prize, but he worked with Linus Pauling, who did. Linus Pauling won Nobel Prize. Dr. Hawkins worked with Linus Pauling on what was known as orthomolecular biology. So, is Dr. Hawkins a quack? I have a hard time believing he's a quack. He's an he's passed on now, but he was a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and he was doing all this other medical research with Linus Pauling, the Nobel Prize winner. His first book, Power versus Force, was endorsed by a whole pile of big names. Mother Teresa. I don't know if you remember Mother Teresa, but she was kind of a big deal. She was a saint in India. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, endorsed his book. Lee Iacocca, who was the CEO of Chrysler Corporation, endorsed his book. And some others. So, does he sound like a quack to me? In other words, someone who's a bullshitter? No, he doesn't sound like a bullshitter. So if you're going to Quack Watch and you're saying it says he's a quack, no, you have to look in the details. Lee Iacocca and Sam Walton quacks? Are they cuckoo pants? I don't think so. The guy that created Walmart and the guy that rescued Chrysler Corporation, those people you would say would be pretty rational human beings and pretty good at business. So if they're endorsing Dr. Hawkins, you cannot say Dr. Hawkins is a quack. So where's the truth? The truth is you don't know. They're very good stories that you can buy into. The story of muscle testing, the story of spiritual enlightenment and Buddha, the story of Jesus Christ, the story of synchronicity, is it real or not? The story of ascended masters, are there really people who graduated from earth plane and ascended to higher dimensions? Are spiritual superpowers, the ones I call cities, real, or is it just bullshit and bafflegab? Do you live only one life in the human form and then drop dead and then you're extinct? Or do you have an afterlife And do you reincarnate here as a human or somewhere else as a plant? What are the answers to this thing? Dr. Hawkins used muscle testing, and that's what he got a lot of his information from. Is it possible that you might get wrong answers with muscle testing? Yes, it's possible. Why do I say it's possible? Because when I was doing some trainings with a group of people who were using muscle testing, they said it's possible that you got the wrong information. They called it your body being switched. In other words, instead of your body saying yes to a correct answer that you're testing, it would say no. And it was just called switched. It was back to front. And Dr. Hawkins himself said that if your consciousness was below 200 on the scale of human consciousness, muscle testing wouldn't work. Well, Dr. Hawkins, being a medical doctor, you would think that his consciousness, I mean, he was the one that wrote all this information. You would think his personal consciousness would be above 200. Anything below 200 is basically anger, apathy, grief, sorrow, revenge, just things that are very low vibration, toxic things. No, he was not like that. If you watch him, he's a very lovely person. He makes you laugh. He's very grandfatherly. I don't take him to be someone who's pulling the wool over our eyes. I think he really wanted to teach us something. So why did he get all this information about karma, that you're balancing the karma from past lives, if there's no point to it? Why would God invent karma in the first place if there's no point to it? My point being, if you can't remember your past lives and you're paying off karma from past lives you can't remember, to you in this life, it seems unfair. And it's not helping you make a better choice in your decisions because you remembered, I did something bad 5 lifetimes ago, 1,000 years ago, and I remember that then, and now I don't want to do that same decision. So it doesn't seem very clear to me, this balancing of karma. I know I've talked a long time about this, and I'm getting this information from somewhere. Is it coming from my mind? Is sifting through all this information? Or is someone giving this information to me? I always say, everything I say is coming from what I call the muse. In other words, it doesn't feel like me. I know I was going to give a talk about karma, but I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know how it was going to go. When I was young, say 10th grade, and I was in English class, and I was told by my teacher that we were going to do an essay about something. In those days, if I was going to write an essay, what I would do is I would jot down on a scrap piece of paper a bunch of the thoughts that I wanted to cover in my essay. So it was I wrote down whatever came to mind that was about the things that I could pick and choose from. And then I had to organize all these thoughts in a way to make the teacher happy. In other words, to make an essay that was an A essay, it had to have a logical formation. It didn't bounce around all over the place. It had to be very convincing and very easy to read for the reader. So in those days, I would think about thoughts and they would bounce around in my head. And then the thought was in my head and I would get my pencil or my pen and I would write it down on my scrap paper, a bunch of this stuff. And then I would take my scrap piece of paper with all these thoughts and things, and I would start to go down there and say, okay, well, this one that I wrote, the fifth point that I wrote down, actually, I want that to be the first thing in my essay because that makes more sense that I talk about this first. And then something that I wrote down first on my scrap piece of paper, actually, that's going to go like maybe in the middle. And and then I write it out once. And then I'd look at it and, in those days we didn't have computers, so it wasn't like I could go and edit it, So So what I would do is that would be my first draft, and then I would rewrite it again. And I would try and improve the flow. I'd change some of the words to make it sound better, to make it more clear. And then if I had time, I would take it to my English teacher and I would show her, this is what I've got. And I would get some feedback from her. And pretty much at that point, I would have to go back and do another draft or another version of it to take into consideration what she saw and what she wanted, because I wanted the A. So I had to do another version of it. And then I finally would submit it to her and I would get an A. So in those days in 10th grade, my mind didn't operate the same way that it does now. Because I don't have a piece of paper here on the table next to my coffee that I'm going off of. It's not there. And I don't have a bunch of thoughts that are wheeling around in my head that I'm putting in order. Like, this is the first thought, this is the second thought, this is the third thought. It doesn't happen that way. That the way that things worked in 10th grade doesn't happen that way for me now. When I'm talking about a subject, it's a whole different mental process. Sometimes I turn on my phone and I start talking. I don't even know what I'm going to say, but there's something there to be said. I don't even know what I'm going to say. It's like when I hear my voice, that's the first time I hear what I'm going to say. So this is why I say it's the muse that is giving me the words to say on the phone, which is way different than 10th grade. What's the whole point of it all? The whole point of it is there a point to it? Am I at the same consciousness level that I was in 10th grade? In 10th grade, you're 15 years old. No, I have a different, on the scale of human consciousness, I am way different than I was when I was 15 years old. Because I muscle tested thing. Oh, I'm back to muscle testing. But yeah, what else are you going to do? This is what Dr. Hawkins says. And I had someone else muscle test me. And I know that my consciousness has changed because my beliefs are different. The way I am is different. What I think is right and wrong is different than when I was 15. So I'm not the same person that I was in 15. And things just don't work the same way. And I do believe that I'm at a higher consciousness now than I was then. So, to wrap it all up, if I had a 10th grade essay to do, what I would have to do is re-listen to this video and come up with a final paragraph to wrap it all up. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm terribly sorry. I just can't even remember what I said at the beginning of this video because I just can't. My mind doesn't work that way. And if I go and listen to it, it's going to take me another half an hour. And I don't know. It's very frustrating to be this kind of a person this way, talk this way. In the old days, I mean, it would take you, several nights to do a proper essay for English. And, I'm doing this on the fly. What about karma then? Is it real or not? And, are you balancing karma from past lives? I'm going to leave it up to you to figure it out. You can put it as an open item. An open item. Is karma real? Are we paying off karma from past lives or not? And you can talk to other people about it and get a lot of people's opinions about it. And then wait till you drop dead and see if you're still alive in an afterlife and see if there's an angel or somebody there who's going to give you an answer. Are they going to show you? I mean, maybe what happens is when you die in your body, you're in the afterlife and then you remember all your other past lives. Maybe that's what happens. Some people say that they do remember their past lives. Some people remember them when they're very small children. There's stories about very small children who remember their past lives. Some of these children remember being murdered in their past life, and they point out to their parents or the police, well, that guy over there, you see him? He's the one that killed me, and I know where the body is. So they go there, and lo and behold, they find the body, and it's perfectly described by this young child of about 4 years old. How is a 4-year-old supposed to know about a murder that happened more than 4 years ago? The child says, that was me in that body over there. These stories exist. You can find them on the internet. So, I also read a story about the history of Hawaii. And it was a bunch of these kind of things where there was like, different groups on the different Hawaiian islands warring with one another. And over the generations, these different bloodlines mixed together, and it was some weird way that, certain people that were killed off were somehow incorporated into the Hawaiian bloodlines. Seems to me that there is reincarnation, and that these relationships that people have had over the generations are still ongoing today. And it just goes on and on. The next one I was going to talk about was Queen Elizabeth of England. And if you look at her family tree, you will see that many of these different warring bloodlines in past centuries are common ancestors to Queen Elizabeth. In other words, hundreds of years ago, some of the people who were her ancestors were at war with one another as to who was going to be the king or the queen of Great Britain. And the Scottish stuff, the Scottish people fighting to be the queen or king of Scotland, it's all wrapped up into Queen Elizabeth's bloodline. So, it seems like there's been a lot of karma among these people to get all these bloodlines wrapped up together so you get a real queen who is made up of all these different bloodlines. You might not like this idea if you think, well, why is it her bloodline and those souls that are the ones that are, going to be the king or the queen of England? It doesn't seem fair. Well, that's Earth history and that's reincarnation. And I don't have a big enough picture to figure out why it is that this Queen Elizabeth and her family are the ones that are the kings and queens. But I always remind you that don't take that thing to be, a huge thing that's going to, poke you in the eye, because remember that geneticists and scientific biological researchers say that we are all one family here, we are all one species, and that if you follow mitochondrial DNA, we have a common mother. Everyone on the planet, somewhere generations and generations way back, I don't know how many thousand years ago, you can look it up on the internet, mitochondrial DNA, and you will see that there was a common mother to everyone on the planet. And there was a common father to everyone on the planet, but the common mother and the common father weren't married. It wasn't Adam and Eve, strangely enough, in the biological tale. Go look it up. It's fascinating information, but it just means that we are all one family, and we've had some very bizarre history, and we're trying to get past this slaughtering of one another so we can live in harmony and peace. And that brings me always back to the other topic of what do we do with all these stories about these groups of elite people who are into human slavery and drinking the blood of terrorized children and owning everything on the planet. How are we ever going to settle this? Well, I know personally in my own circumstances that it has gone way too far because I can't afford to live in the country I was born in. I have to have a lot of help from other people because everything is too expensive, and the amount that they pay me is not enough for me to live by myself on my own. And I don't live in a fancy pants city. I live in a very small backwater dumpy city. So if backwater dumpy cities in my country I can't afford, then something has gone so bad that I have to go. I've had enough of Monopoly. Do you remember Monopoly? The game Monopoly, if you go to like Wikipedia and read about it, you'll see the inventor of Monopoly made the game so to show people that monopolies always end up with one winner and everyone else loses. And the idea was the world that this person that invented Monopoly is the world we live in today. I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe 100 years ago, but it was the same thing. It was a capitalist economy where you had very few winners, the monopolists, Standard Oil, Esso or Exxon, J.D. Rockefeller, had a huge, if it wasn't quite a monopoly, he had a very dominant position in the oil business. And there were plenty of other of these, what they called robber barons. They were exceptionally wealthy people because they owned corporations that owned the market. And the person who made a monopoly basically wanted all of us to play Monopoly and then come to the realization that this is a game that only one person wins, and the rest of us have to pay rent in order to live on the planet. And it's not fair, and we need to get rid of this whole system that generates monopolies. We still have this stupid system, and it's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke to me. It's a very painful thing to realize that you're born into a world and you're in a physical body. And the physical body has got feet and it has to stand on land. And then sometime during your learning of what it's like to live here on planet Earth, you come to the conclusion that I was born into a body that needs to stand on land, and all the land is owned by someone else. I was born and they never gave me an allocation of land for me to stand on. I'm standing on someone else's land all the time. That's not right. That's not fair. And it's the same for a hell of a lot of other people on the planet. You have to have somewhere to plant your feet, and someone else, it's their land. Everywhere on the planet, it's not free for you to stand on this place you were born into. How backwards are we in 2020? What a backwards world. You're born here, and other people own the land that you have to stand on because you're in a body that's got gravity forcing it onto the ground. And these other people can say, well, I don't give a damn where you go, but this is my land and you get the hell off. And I'm going to call the police. And they're going to come with their guns and either arrest you and throw you in jail, or they're just going to, point their guns at you and say, get moving. Move on down the road there, sucker. We're supposed to be I don't know what we're supposed to be. You're taught in school that we're a very advanced society, and when you come to these kind of truths, you come to the conclusion this is as primitive as all hell. This is very primitive. This is not advanced society. How are we ever going to figure this out? Well, I've got a simple answer. The private ownership of land has got to go. Because there's no way in hell I would ever agree in my adult mind to this insanity of being in a physical body that has to stand on ground, and it's all owned by someone else who can tell me what to do. It's insane. But that is the way it is in 2020. And that's got to change, folks. That's got to change. So, if you're the Queen Elizabeth and you've got billions of dollars and all this land that's being held in your name, and a bunch of other people, not that big of a bunch compared to the billions who have no land whatsoever, it seems to me there's a lot of people who have nothing, who are very hateful of the class of people that own everything, and with good reason, because these people know, and they've known for generations, that they are the ruling class and that they have more than their fair share. And some of these people we discover, Prince Andrew, for example, that they've been off to Epstein's Island and they've been using children to be their personal sex slaves. So what's supposed to happen? Nothing has happened not to Prince Andrew. And Epstein, we're told by the mainstream news that's owned by these same people, Queen Elizabeth and her friends, that Epstein, he killed himself in jail and, go along on your own way. No, that's not true. That's not true. I don't think Epstein is dead at all. And I think they're pulling the wool over the eyes of the general population, as they have done for generations. And it makes me feel sick and angry. And what do I want to do with these people? Well, I want to topple them off of their big dung heap of ownership of everything on the planet. But, I can't do it by myself. There's really nothing I can do about it except bitch to my smartphone and watch as, nothing happens. When is humanity going to wake up? It's 2020. Why haven't we woken up already? It seems like we're really being held back from graduating from Earth plane. It's interesting to me that I don't get too many viewers on YouTube and Instagram, and other people whatever they're doing, get thousands of views. It seems to me that I am shadow banned. In other words, I am being actively censored because I'm telling the truth, and somebody doesn't want my truth to come out. So if that's you, I know what you're doing. And if you think you're going to get away with it because it's going on right now, you keep laughing. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth is, your time is up. Your time is up, and whether you shadow ban me or not, your world is coming to crash down on you, so you better get the hell out of the way. I don't see anything happening on the news. It's happening in consciousness. It's happening in consciousness. And are you afraid of people like me coming to lynch you because of all the shit that you've been doing over the centuries or in this lifetime? I think you should be worried. It's not going to be me. But, there are people that are very much more active than I am. And I know you know who they are because you've got spies everywhere and you're spying on everyone, everywhere, every how. And if you think you can keep them all locked down, you're crazy. You are crazy. Anyways, if you can't see the end, then you're going to suffer. If you can see that what's going on here doesn't make any logical sense in the whole grand scheme of things, that humans are born onto a planet that they have to stand on and the land is all owned by someone else. If you can't see that's wrong, I'm telling you it's wrong. And you need to get out in front of it and make big changes. Either you're going to be part of the solution or you're going to be crushed by the solution. Because whatever it is that creates us and puts us in bodies and incarnates us here on the planet ain't going to have this going on and on and on and on and on and on of people coming here and in physical bodies to a world that is all owned by you. How do I know this? Because it's insane that infinite intelligence that would create all this stuff would do this. So you've hijacked it and you've had your fun, but we all know about it. And it's not up to me to depose you. It's not up to the people to depose you. It's going to be something in consciousness that's going to change. And if you can figure out how to get in front of it, maybe you will be seen as someone who was intelligent. But if you want to hold on to the past ways of controlling everything on this planet, maybe you're going to get, well, let them eat cake. You go look that up on the internet and see who said that. Marie Antoinette, and see what happened to Marie Antoinette. Because either you're going to get out in front of it and stop screwing the people so badly that they can't afford to live, or you're going to be like Marie Antoinette and you're going to come to a horrible end. It's your choice, and you better make it quick. I'm Harry Weaver.